I want to share with you some events that occurred to me recently. In June 2023, I want to emphasize that it's before the war in Gaza. It's before the attacks. In June 2023, I had rented a truck to move boxes of books from a storage unit to our apartment. Josette said that, yes, we will go to Ottawa for the year, but only if we stop paying for unnecessary storage. So I was at the Shell station on Roselawn and Marley to fill up the gas tank before returning the truck. How many of you have passed Roselawn and Marley? Pretty much, it's like in the hood. A man came out of the gas station. He must have seen my kippah, and he shouted at me, "You Jews are committing genocide in Palestine. You should be kicked out of Canada and sent back to where you came from." I was a little too slow getting out my phone camera to catch his license plate. But I was really disturbed because of this sense, and I said, something bad is brewing. A second story. Last year, 2024, or this year, in Ottawa, shopping for groceries, people would see my kippah. They'd ask me about Judaism. They'd see the number that I'm wearing. Today is day 407 since our cousin was shot and killed on October 7. And I often explain about the many days of hostage since that date. One man subsequently came to synagogue to observe a morning service. A cashier told me that she thought she might have some Jewish ancestry. Another shopper said, "I just want you to know that you are not alone, that I and others support Israel." So I want you to think about these two types of events. My colleague, Rabbi David Wolpe, writing in the aftermath of the Amsterdam attack about the attack on Israeli fans, the firebombing of the tram, the declaration that Jews are a cancer, he points to the city of Sodom, consumed with antisocial evil, as well as another city where wickedness did not dominate life. So what was the wickedness of Sodom and Amorah, their leaders and their people? According to the Torah, this was a place where outsiders, even those just passing through, were not welcome, were not safe. A midrash portrays the residents of Sodom as perverting the mitzvah of hospitality. Ben emphasized hospitality. But a traveler, according to this midrash, arriving in Sodom would be placed in a shelter, and if the guest were tall, that person would be given a short bed. A smaller person would be placed on a long bed. One would have the feet chopped off to make sure that there was a space, and the other would be stretched to fit the accommodations. According to the Torah, those who offered hospitality were also endangered. Sodom became a place where residents could not distinguish between evil and good. They could only see gradations of evil. To avoid an attack on guests, Lot offers his daughters to be raped or to be abused in other ways. Despite Avram's intervention, the city lacked enough good people to be saved. But the Torah tells us of another city and another encounter in this same Torah portion. Avram and Sarah look for a place in Gerar. If you go to the maps at the back, page 1512, you'll see W6 in the coordinates of the map. You'll see where Beersheba is, and you'll see where Gerar is. It's a little south of where Gaza is today. Avram does not trust Avimelech. He has Sarah say that she's his sister. And that's partially true, because when you married into a family, the new wife was adopted as a daughter. We refer to our daughter-in-law as our daughter. In a dream, God addressed Avimelech and said to him, Anochi yadati ki betam levavcha asita zot. I know you did this in innocence, so I kept you from sinning and didn't let you touch her. And Avimelech, the city chieftain, returned Sarah to Abraham along with a flock of animals. So the two biblical incidents and my own experiences remind me that we have to avoid generalizing about hatred and evil. People differ. Although the Netherlands ignored the warnings about possible violence, Paris did not. And the Israeli and French soccer teams fought to a 0-0 tie with the President of France in attendance. Yes, there were protests, there were some altercations, but it was nothing like Amsterdam. I'm sometimes asked accusingly, so where are all of those interfaith partners that you've been working with for years? Where have they been during this terrible time? Last week, Deborah Lyons, in a public discussion at Holy Blossom, spoke about how she, a non-Jew, came to learn about Judaism really for the first time in university. She's now our great advocate. Deborah discussed the courage it takes to speak up for anyone who is under attack, and particularly now to speak up for Jews and against anti-Semitism. There is a fear of being targeted and attacked by those who hate Israel and whose anti-Zionism mutates into anti-Semitism. She spoke about the importance of the recently released Canadian handbook, explaining the IRA definition of anti-Semitism and the work that she's engaged in to have all levels of Canadian government, all levels of education, and all levels of business and commerce to understand what is Jew hatred and how to respond to it. To be honest, there has been a dearth of clear Christian support for our community in the wake of attacks on synagogues, schools, and individuals. And there is no question that some churches and church leaders are antagonistic to Israel. The United Church of Canada has called upon the government of Canada to end diplomatic relations with Israel. Not to criticize a policy, but to end a relationship. But last week, on Wednesday, at Holy Blossom, a pastor from Oshawa stood up and explained that a cold call had come in to him asking whether his church would be interested in hearing from the family member of someone captured by Hamas. And this led him to connect to Rabbi Wernick and to initiate a process to learn more about Judaism and to bring more information about Judaism and Israel to his church. There are Christians who have begun to speak up. Last spring, when I was in Ottawa, we hosted a group of Christians who were signing and announcing a declaration of support for Israel and against anti-Semitism. And I encourage the organizers to reach out to other Christian leaders around Canada. Most recently, a friend, Reverend Dr. Andrew Bennett, circulated a statement so far signed by 750 Christian leaders against anti-Semitism. This is part of what it said. We declare to you, our Jewish cousins, that in these challenging times we are with you. We will stand shoulder to shoulder with you in defense of human dignity, justice, and freedom, these cherished Canadian values. And we will turn back the tide of anti-Semitism in Canada together. Andrew was quoted as saying, well, I think we have to decry the visible manifestations of Jew hatred that we're seeing in our campuses and in our streets and social media and so forth. We also have to be very concerned about the silence that is evident from those Canadians who should be much more vocal in standing up for our Jewish fellow citizens. So in the coming year, we are hoping to convene a summit meeting of 50 Christian leaders and 50 rabbis to get to know each other. And the third stage will be to pair 50 clerics and their churches with 50 rabbis and their congregations for a year of cooperation and joint events. They will agree to learn about Christianity's understanding of Judaism and Judaism's understanding of Christianity. We'll seek ways for groups of young people like Ben, for women and men to come together to talk with each other, to get to know each other, because we know that proximity, seeing the other, reduces conflict and builds respect. So I want to call upon you to do something, you who are here today. If you are Jewish, invite a non-Jewish friend to synagogue. Host a Christian neighbor for a Shabbat dinner. If you are not Jewish, invite a Jewish friend to share coffee and conversation and to ask about the anxiety and insecurity that Jews are experiencing at this time. Years ago, my teacher, Rabbi Avram Holtz at the Jewish Theological Seminary, told me about being asked to address a Christian gathering in the autumn of 1967. He was reluctant to accept. He experienced Christian silence leading up to the Six-Day War. He wasn't sure what to do, and he went to his teacher, who was also my teacher, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, for advice. Heschel listened to Holtz's disappointment, his frustration, and then he responded in this sly, clever way that Heschel had. So, Avram, what have you done since then to change them? Maybe you should say, Hineni. Here I am. Our portion today tells us that Avram, our ancestor, said, Hineni. And maybe we have to look for ways to step up and step forward with dignity, with inner pride, and with hopeful faith in our fellow Canadians. Let us also say, Hineni. Shabbat Shalom.